What's up, everybody? Now that week 2 of LFR is out, let's go over the strategies that we need to complete this. Now, as always, tank everything facing away from the raid, dispel what you need to, have fun. Boss number 1, Ursoc. Now, with every single boss, you do need 2 tanks. You will see here I main tank first. I am going to receive this rend flesh debuff. I get it, the other tank taunts off of me, and then he's going to receive the next debuff. You did see the charge there on Ursoc. Ursoc will charge someone every so often. What that someone needs to do is run to the center of the room, and everybody in the raid needs to run in between Ursoc and them. The more people that get hit on the way, the less damage that charge does to everybody. Now, if no one stands in between the target and Ursoc, that could wipe the whole raid. So make sure, as a DPS or as a healer, you do stand in between. Now, you do see here, I do have 2 of the tank debuffs on me. That should never happen. However, it's not that deadly in LFR. So as soon as the other tank receives the debuff, you will see me taunt off of him. So there's the debuff on the tank. I do taunt and get the rend flesh on me. In the meantime, it is good to build up resources, whether that's rage, runic power, whatever it is you need to do as a tank to build up resources. Now, this roaring cacophony that you just saw does damage on an AoE based on how many people there are around him. So all the raid needs to group up really close to him, and that damage will be split between everyone. So in LFR difficulty, this boss is not too difficult. Stack up near him to split up that cacophony damage. Tanks need to taunt off each other every single debuff. And with the charge, if you're being targeted, make sure you run to the center of the room, and everybody needs to get in between you two. Everything else is rinse and repeat. This is a bit of a damage race with that berserk timer coming up, but you should be fine. Nothing too difficult in LFR. Up next, we have the dragons. This fight is a little bit more difficult, so you do need to tank these 2 dragons very far away from each other in this room. The DPSers will be split right down the middle. You do see here I get both the debuffs, and that's not what's supposed to happen. I'm only supposed to get 1. So I do keep moving the boss further and further back just to see if I can only get another debuff. So there it is. I have 2 of 1. The other one should fall off. I am in perfect position. Face these bosses away from the raid. They do a frontal cone breath. Pick up all these ads. You do see these corruption ads. As a DPSer, you do want to keep these interrupted. They will cast something. You can stun them, CC them, snare them. Whatever it is you need to do, go ahead and handle them accordingly. Now, when the tank gets to 7 or 8 debuffs, the tanks should switch dragons. Now, the tanks will not switch positions. The dragons will switch positions so that the DPS don't have to. So you do see more ads here. I walk in to pick them up. They do have to get focused down. During this fight, another thing to note is that dispels are very important for healers. So you see here I had 7 debuffs. We are going to swap the dragons. So I go over, taunt the other dragon, run back into position. You did see that the stacks did fall off. If they get to 10 stacks, you do get a huge stun on you that can wipe you. Now over to my left, you can see that there is a flower there. What needs to be done is a DPS needs to stand on that flower. If nobody stands on that flower, it spawns ads continuously. but the damage that flower does is not that great, so someone does need to stand in it. Now you do see here I keep getting more and more debuffs on this. This means that the dragons are way too close. I keep trying to move, but every time I move, my healers don't follow me. This is a big issue in LFR. Communication can basically wipe and kill a raid. So you do see I do start running very far away, but my health starts going down. None of the healers are following me. The other tank is facing the dragon towards the raid and not moving away. This is a very bad situation to be in. I do pop a lot of defensive cooldowns to try to survive this. But try to be very aware of what's going on. Now, with all of these ads, as a DPSer, you should prioritize the ads 100% of the time. These ads will overwhelm you. Also, if you do see one of those flowers, if you're a ranged DPS or a healer, do everybody a favor and just stand inside of that flower. Now, I do get to 8 stacks. I do taunt the dragon off, but then the other tank re-taunts him. Here's where LFR can get a little messy. I keep trying to pull the other dragon. The tank follows me. I get 10 stacks of the debuff, and there's the 30-second stun that can kill you. Luckily, the healers were on it. They did see me get this debuff, and they just started overhealing me, so that's good. But this is absolutely the worst position you can be in with this stun. So as tanks, make sure you guys know exactly what you're doing, and make sure you guys have positioning down. Whether you need to use markers, flares, whatever it is you need to do, make sure you can position them exactly where they need to be. So all in all, this boss fight isn't too difficult. Split the DPS right down the middle, one on each dragon, pick up all of the ads, stand in all the flowers, make sure you dispel people because there's a lot of snares that happen, interrupt the ads if they have any cast, and as tanks, swap the dragons. And do not swap positions, only dragons. So you do see here another taunt. I only had 3 stacking debuffs, so I wasn't sure what was going on. Not a lot of communication here. This is how hectic LFR can be. The other tank took my position. I wasn't sure what was going on. I'm just trying to keep a decent handle on things. You do see there, that flower is what you need to stand on. Here we have another frontal cone ability. Just make sure you're faced away from the group. I try to pick up a few of these ads, but they're going to overrun you unless you stand inside that flower. So to sum up the boss again, kill the ads, face them away from the group, swap them accordingly, and stand in any flowers. Now the last boss, Cenarius, he's a little bit more difficult. Basically you need one main tank on him and another tank on ad duty. Now here he does summon all of his ads. Wherever the raid stacks up, that ad will be cleansed and will become a pool where you can go and get your debuffs off during that phase. So you do see off in the corner that pool of green, that becomes a cleansing area. As far as all the other ads, you just need to DPS them down. The wisps have no aggro. The 2 dryad sisters, you basically just need to interrupt their heal and DPS them down. The guardian you see there in the background, you do need to stack up on him because he does do a stomp that splits the damage between everybody close to him. And then the drakes or the dragons, you basically need to single target them down, don't cleave them down, because at 50% they'll start pulsing for damage. So you need to focus them down and minimize the amount of time they're below 50%. So you do see people running in and out of that pool of green, cleansing up their debuffs. In LFR, you can let the debuffs get up to about 20 to 25, and at that point you should run into that green area, cleanse yourself, and then run back out. Don't do it multiple times. One time is enough. Just run in, run out. You'll see the debuffs get off of you. And basically, this is rinse and repeat until Cenarius hits 35%. So ads, pick them up, get your debuffs off, DPS the ads first, they have priority over Cenarius. Again, depending on which ads you get You do want to focus the Dryads first, then the Wisp, then the Dragons, and then the Guardian. You see here my stacks are getting a little bit high. I just hit 20, so I'm going to run in and cleanse myself. As a tank, I let them hit 25, just because I can mitigate that damage a little bit better. Now here we're going to have LFR being hectic again. So as far as I knew, I was main tank on Cenarius until phase 2. But here we have the other tank taunt off me and pick him up, so I have to switch to ad duty. Make sure you pick up threat on both of them. You need to interrupt that cast right there, the life cast. That is a heal. The last thing that happens throughout phase 1 is Cenarius will target someone with this AoE patch on the ground, and when it spawns it'll start chasing someone. Now that someone needs to kite this bramble out of the raid, so make sure you don't get caught in it, make sure you don't get rooted in it, and drop those patches away from the raid. Now once these patches do drop, if you are getting overrun by these, or if they're dropped in a very unfortunate area that you do need to cleanse, a paladin can bubble, or a DK can anti-magic shell, anything that kind of makes you immune to magic damage. You can do that and run through all of them, and they won't root you, and they'll actually get destroyed. So that's a little tip. So with Cenarius in phase 2 below 35%, he does do Spear of Nightmares. Now this summons a patch of nightmare underneath you that's based on how much damage it did to you. So if the spear hit you for 100% of the damage, that patch would be huge. So what you need to make sure of is when he's going to cast that spear on you, you do want to minimize the damage it takes. Pop some defensive cooldowns, shield wall, ignore pain, shield block, whatever it is you need to do. Try to minimize the damage of that single ability. Now you did see me run into some bramble there. If we would have had someone use Cloak of Shadows, AMS, whatever, they could have destroyed all of that for us. The last thing that does happen in phase 2 is that Malfurion does get entangled and he will no longer be able to cleanse your party or drop those cleansing pools. So you do see here entangling roots, that is your DPS priority. When that happens, switch to it, free Malfurion, and then go back to Cenarius. Just because if you can't shake off those stacks, you will die. So again, phase 1, pick up the ads. Phase 2, switch tanks and get Malfurion free. Alright, that does it for LFR. It's nothing crazy difficult, but you definitely need more coordination than last week. Good luck tanking out there, and I hope your pugs are more coordinated than mine was.